two things that come to mind of getting involved in advocacy. One is that when you're looking, and it's even helpful in any role, especially in transaction tax, it's so impacted by changes in the products and new offerings coming out by companies. So I think it's really important to always totally understand what it is you're taxing or who you're taxing before you kind of make a decision with the statute. And that was always big in my role. If I was working with an industry, I would go out and, like, it was an oil barge, I would go out and see how the oil was coming into the state. And so we figured out how petroleum taxes would work. So I think really getting into that helps. And the second is, don't think that just because the statute says something, you can't influence it. Get involved in, you're very engaged in Streamline and you testify before Congress, you're an expert in this area. And people, when you speak at the meeting, it's like E.F. Hutton speaking, attend these meetings. You can do it remotely. You don't always have to travel to be there. And it's a great way to make contacts in government that can help you as you do things, but also to make changes. We're constantly trying to change things and streamline and update them. And multi-state tax commission is another example. Places you can get involved without having to leave your desk and meet people and learn new issues and the challenges that everyone's facing and make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing that is somewhat unique about sales tax and really state and local tax generally, is that even though I'm in litigation and I'm often I'm dealing with courts and judges, it's much more collaborative than combative a lot of the time, most of the time. And so I think relationship building goes a long way. I think that, especially for women, to be able to build relationships, not just with, people in your firm, but people in other firms, people like you, Diane, because there's so much uncertainty in the industry that to be able to ask for, other people to weigh in. Have you seen this? Do you have a case in this area? Can help. And then building relationships with the departments and, build with, their adversaries, but it doesn't have to be adversarial or, combative. As I said, I think you can really work together to find a resolution in a lot of ways.
It's such a complex area, and it's continuing in the complexity. We need really good people who understand these tax issues, whether it's nexus or sourcing. You can have a single individual sitting in far west Texas or a small Kansas town, and they can touch the world with whatever goods or services they are selling. And those people need good counsel, good advice to know what they need to do to be in compliance. And so I just think there's a lot of opportunity there for people to grow and really make a difference. And the other thing that I think is so great, in terms of like meeting people like you, Diane, and getting to work with people like you, I've always found there's a really great sense of community and camaraderie, that people want to help each other, and we're all better off if we can learn together. So like I say, if somebody's inside a Department of Revenue or thinking about working for a Department of Revenue, or even if that's not your path, but just as you've already noted, Diane, be mindful that you can still have an impact in a very positive way by engaging with your Department of Revenue or a group like MTC. I think on the whole, you'll find that most people want to get it right and, again, make tax administration and tax compliance as easy as possible for people so they can get on with their lives.
It's an undervalued, I feel like, area of work. I would just say, like, know it's valuable for things you do. Even, it might seem pretty simple, like the women who are in the day-to-day, like just compliance work, right? Like understanding how to file, understand how to do reconciliations. I mean, like, really value that, right? This area is extremely underserved. And so the knowledge that you have is so valuable. I'd say, really find your passion in the things that you enjoy, and honestly tout that. I would say really put it out there. Even like, I'm a CPA and an attorney, so I akin myself more to CPAs because, Tax Thoughts is a CPA firm. But, when I network and, work with, my fellow attorney friends, they do have the litigation and all those cool things. But I mean, like wherever you practice in this area, right? Sales tax is hard and complicated. So I would just say, really take that knowledge and be really, I'd say be proud, right? Be confident that, you know, you're really adding value to this profession. And, you know, I'd say, you know, spread the word. It's really important.
Yes, absolutely. A couple things. One is networking. This field thrives on networking, getting to know people. You know, I never would have had this opportunity if I hadn't been attending conferences or coming to the trainings that Sales Tax Institute offers and getting to know other people in the industry, getting to know other people at Yetter Tax. And I think it's just so important to always stay connected with people in this industry, because especially when you work for an individual company or something, it can be very isolating. And so being able to network with other people and learn from them is very important, which leads into my second thing, which is education. There's always a million things to learn in sales tax and the indirect tax space, and getting access to any resources you can is very helpful. You know, there's lots of free resources, there's lots of webinars you can attend, there's communities that you can join, and being a part of that and having access to those educational tools is vital to being successful in the sales tax industry.
So while I'm in the first few years of my career, I found it to be very invaluable for me to kind of keep my finger on the pulse of the evolving nature of tax law itself. May it be legislative changes or already existing law and interpretations of that law through cases, rulings, or otherwise, because often trends will emerge across jurisdictions and you're in a much better place to serve clients being informed about how these issues are being resolved nationally and what the most likely outcome will be. And in addition to keeping up with tax law updates, I echo those women that have come before me in emphasizing the importance of networking and relationship building, especially in the field of sales tax, where you may have an issue emerge in a jurisdiction that you are unfamiliar with. And in that situation, the advice of professionals who have experience dealing with those tax authorities can often make all the difference in obtaining a favorable outcome for your client.
Yeah, my advice would be build your network, be curious, and do not settle.
Yeah, so I would say remember to be kind to yourself. I think, you know, we are our biggest criticizers, right? Sales tax can be incredibly overwhelming and even emotional at times. And I would say that's the same advice is stay empowered by continuously learning and educating yourself, like with Sales Tax Institute. I think it's awesome how the industry thrives on ongoing education and networking. So it's something that everyone should embrace. I think when the situation calls for it, like being assertive and confident is very, very important. You know, being confident with the knowledge that you have and the decisions on maybe why you decide to do something with the sales tax approach is important. It's easy to feel intimidated by state officials or, you know, IRS sometimes, but it's also important to keep in mind they might not always have the answers, and sometimes they're navigating it with you because of that gray area and more things are coming out, right? So it's being confident with what you know and being willing to speak up, share your ideas, and express any concerns you might have, I think is an important thing that I would say is an advice to women or anyone in general.
So I think a lot of it comes down to just being a great listener. You know, when you're on the advisory side, sometimes, you know, especially with sales tax, depending on the company, it gets kind of relegated to an AP person, an AR person, someone who does invoicing. And so they feel often alone in that field. So as an advisor, you know, we kind of just need to listen and meet the client where they're at and just, you know, sometimes be that therapist. And then, you know, if you are in sales tax from a company perspective and, you know, kind of in industry, not in public accounting, is really kind of keeping an ear out and kind of understanding how your company views sales tax and really not be afraid to kind of advocate for what it means to the company, you know, that's, past obligations, current obligations, it will always come up.
I would say that, scientists have started to discover that women have a very unique response to stress. We have fight or flight, but in women, they're also identifying what they call tend and befriend. And what we tend to do as women is to identify ways to protect those we care about through finding solutions and resources and adopting groups to help us work through those things. And so I think we should lean into that. That's our natural tendency. We should use that. And you don't wait till the emergency to happen. You maybe start by building communities. You join, educational groups like the Institute for Professionals in Taxation or Sales Tax Institute, and meet people and learn your skills and learn who the people are in the community. Taxpayer groups, for example, I am very involved in the Arizona Tax Research Association. And I've been involved in chambers of commerce and affinity groups for whatever industries I've been involved with. On occasion, I've attended the different user groups for whatever software we were using. And the thing about those groups and activities is that, yes, you're learning, and that in your everyday processes makes you better. But when push comes to shove, when you have a big issue, when you have a broad problem that's not just your issue and it seems unsolvable just by one person, you can join forces with these groups and find solutions. You can reach out with this power of numbers and organized numbers and money, and people can really solve big problems that affect all of us. And you can take those groups and go to your Department of Revenue, or in Arizona we have the cities to contend with. I think for women that is our probably our best way to get engaged early, stay engaged, and engage often throughout your career.